Information provided is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Neither Peter J. D'Arruda or his guests are liable for the usage of information discussed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken.
Coach Pete Radio.
Hi, this is Coach Pete.
In Chicagoland, I'm Ed Downey.
And if you've got questions about how to safely and properly allocate your investments, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Financial Safari.
Broadcasting from coast to coast, it's the Financial Safari with your host, Coach Pete D'Arruda. Coach Pete and his guests are some of the nation's top financial professionals. They make it their mission to guide investors through the treacherous jungle of the financial world, showing them how to grow, keep, and leave their money for their loved ones. Coach Pete is a frequent contributor to Fox Business Network, CNBC, The Wall Street Journal, and many other news outlets. They come to Coach Pete for their answers, and now so can you. So stick around and find out how to make it through the jungle of the financial world on the Financial Safari.
And welcome everybody to the Financial Safari. I am Walter Storholt alongside Donna Mason. Hey, Donna.
Hey, Walt. We have to welcome back John. We missed you so much. John has actually been in Kenya, and I think while you were there, you were on an actual safari, weren't you?
Yeah, well, it was field research for the Financial Safari. Had to go on a real safari.
Special assignment from the boss.
On special assignment. But he sent back a picture of him chasing a zebra. We were all wondering what that was about.
Well, zebras, for them, are like deer. And, Coach, I know you find deer all the time running out in the street in front of your motor vehicles. But, yeah, they're all over the place there. So we stopped the bus and got out, and I decided to chase them.
Yeah, the objective to driving down the road these days is to have a car that will withstand the impact from a deer hit. So you want to be the bigger of the two things when you hit a deer. And there's a couple of those cars out there that I wonder if the deer might not win that battle.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, of course, that is the voice of Coach Pete D'Arruda, who we would be remiss to mention,
That's
of course.
Right. Donna was so excited to see John walk in, she forgot about the coach.
So sorry.
It is his show, after all. Coach, you doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Now, let's talk, John. Yeah, you were in Kenya, and that was a good trip. You went for almost a week and came back. You spent a lot of time on planes. You went over there to help with a project, which is fantastic. Explain a little bit about what you did.
Well, working with a village over there, trying to make them a little more self-sufficient. They're not in any way geared toward entrepreneurialism or anything like that. So just trying to help change their mindset, make them at least be able to be something more than subsistence farmers.
So you were chasing zebra out there.
Yeah, when the opportunity presents itself.
How'd
Things
that
got
work out?
boring.
Did you ever catch one?
I sure did not.
And
didn't come close, really. And the funny thing is, as they were running away from me, I was like, these are not that fast. They're not running away from me
I'll say the same thing about you, John.
Yeah, well, exactly. Because I saw some zebras run later when they were actually chasing something they wanted to eat, and they were very fast.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine they weren't very
Be
afraid
glad
of
they
me.
didn't speed up and start chasing you.
Right. Yeah. They were not scared of me.
Now, the analogy, though, if we could do a financial analogy, you were out there chasing the zebras, never catching them, and that's like Don Quixote of the day here, always chasing returns. A lot of people are out there chasing the best return, or they'll watch TV and see a couple of the stock pickers on there, tout a stock or a mutual fund, and they'll jump in, and it'll never quite perform a lot of times like they thought it was. And the magic of any kind of buy in the stock market is you have to know when you're going to sell. And I think that's the main problem. When I was in D.C. last week talking to Kiplinger, some of the folks at Kiplinger, and we were talking about the main problem of the market is not when you buy. It's when you buy, you better know when you're going to sell, because if not, you get trapped on the belt line, I call it. And every city has a belt line where you get on it, and it takes you around the outskirts of the city. Now, if you don't know when you're going to get off, what happens?
Keep going in a circle.
Keep going around in circles.
I know the answer to that because I've done it before.
Yeah, I've done that myself in Charlotte before, and you get caught on that circle, and that's what happens. And before you go on a subway, you could stay on the subway all day long if you don't know when you're going to get off. You'll get beat up in the market many times if you don't know when to get out. It's great to get good returns, but you have to know when to get out. You have to make profits. The whole goal of getting into anything is you must look at how many years or days you're going to be in there, and then you figure out your true return when you get out. If it's a negative return, you take your wounds and you go on. If it's a positive return, you take some of that money and put it back into the market. And, John, that's a great analogy, though, about how people are chasing the zebras around.
So how do you know when you should get out? When you get in and you buy something at, say, $50 a share, do you just say, okay, at $75 I'm getting out? Do you determine then, or do you just watch the market?
First of all, you say, yeah, I'd like to have a 20 or 30% return, which means it'll be X number of dollars before I get out.
Okay.
It's called straddling. People have heard this term. Maybe they're not familiar with it. Straddling says you want to set a time or a price that you're going to get out at a high point, but you're also going to set a time or a price you're going to get out if it doesn't perform at all, or if it starts sinking, you're going to get out before it goes even lower. And that's the problem a lot of times when people buy a stock or mutual fund that starts to go down in value. Instead of getting out like they should, you know what they do? They double down. And that's worked for some people in the past, but guess what happens to a lot of folks?
Well, they probably lose
Goes
money.
down even more. And so, just have to be careful. And I have nothing against the market. Again, I'm an investment advisor, and I advise risk, but only after people have safe money in a place where they know they're not going to lose it, when they have a retirement income account growing. You have to have a bunch of different buckets of money. One's for emergencies, one's for income, one's for fun money, and then the last one is for money you can take risk with. And too many people are taking their retirement, their income money, and their fund money, and they're throwing it into the market and they're losing it. And that worries me a little bit.
So what you're doing is you're taking the emotion out of it.
That's all about the financial world. If you can take the emotion out, it's a whole lot easier.
Folks, again, if you want these kinds of discussions to take place about your particular financial situation, we invite you to call the team from the Financial Safari at 800-940-6979. That's 800-940-6979. And, of course, there is more information online as well at financialsafari.com.
And I think on financialsafari.com this week we'll have the first 2 chapters of my book called 7 Financial Baby Steps. And you can click on that link and download that for your enjoyment at home. The 7 steps, I'm going to give folks the first step if they log in and request it, which are 2 chapters in that first step. You know, I had a call last week from a gentleman who said, I love your show, and I want an investment such as this. So it's almost like he was reading down a menu of his favorite things that he wants in life. He says, I want an investment that has no risk, has a great return. He said, I want at least 7% per year, if not more. And he said, I want 100% liquidity at any time. In other words, he wanted to be able to take his money out at any time, but he also wanted that great return and no risk. Guess what we told him?
Doesn't exist?
It doesn't exist. So guess what he told us?
See you later?
He said, I have an advisor down the street who tells me I can get that. And I said,
Oh.
oh, yeah, well, we've heard that before, haven't we? Was his name Bernie Madoff, perhaps? So you have to be
man.
very careful. There's no such thing as no risk, a fantastic return, and 100% liquidity. In other words, being able to take your money out at any time. So you have to segment your money into places where you know you have some money with no risk, and you can still get a great return for income, but it's not 100% liquid.
If you have questions about what's happening out there in the financial world and you need some guidance, you need somebody to bounce those ideas off of, to talk a little bit more about your particular situation and get a customized plan put together, whether it's an income plan or just trying to determine how best to allocate your funds, the number to call to speak with someone from the Financial Safari is 800-940-6979. That's 800-940-6979. And, of course, there's more information online as well at financialsafari.com. There is a lot to get to on the program today, so stay tuned. We'll be right back after this on the Financial Safari. The Financial Safari would like to present Financially Fit to Physically Fit with America's fitness doctor, Dr. Rob.
Hi, this is Dr. Rob, America's fitness doctor, and today we're going to talk about that old saying. You know the one, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, I tell you what, nothing could be truer. Let's talk about apples for a second. It's one of the best foods that you could eat to help encourage weight loss, and that's apples. There are several studies that have demonstrated that the benefit of eating an apple is phenomenal. It's one of the best foods that you can eat to encourage weight loss, and there was one study that showed that people that ate 2 to 3 apples a day lost more weight than people who did not. Now, apples are a low-sugar fruit, and they contain a substance called pectin, which aids in digestion and helps to lower cholesterol. Some of the other benefits of eating apples, they help to decrease the incidence of breast cancer, lung cancer, and Alzheimer's disease. There's even evidence that eating apples helps protect women from osteoporosis by strengthening the bones. So, eat your apple a day and keep the doctor away. This is Dr. Rob, America's fitness doctor, fitness is life, take it.
Hear more from Dr. Rob, America's Fitness Doctor, next week on the Financial Safari.
Broadcasting from coast to coast, the Financial Safari is your source for a common sense approach to planning for a secure retirement. More and more Americans must now depend on personal savings to last them and their loved ones through retirement. Trying to save and build a financial foundation to support yourself for the rest of your life can seem like a big challenge, but there is help available.
In the Chicagoland area, contact the president of Downey Financial Group, Ed Downey, at 800-940-6979. Again, that's 800-940-6979.
To find out how you can achieve a lifetime retirement income that can continue on to your loved ones once you pass away. Your initial consultation is free.
Contact the president of Downey Financial Group, Ed Downey, at 800-940-6979. Again, that's 800-940-6979.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Financial Safari, your weekly show looking inside that complex financial world, trying to make it a little less complicated for all of our listeners. And it's at this point of the show where we like to talk with our local trusted advisors all around the country. And in Chicagoland, we talk with Ed Downey. Now, he's president of Downey Financial Group, and you can get in touch with him at any time by calling 800-940-6979. Again, that's 800-940-6979. Donna?
Thanks so much, Coach Pete. Ed, how are you doing? I guess this is the first time I personally get to meet you.
Yes, Donna, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
How's everything in Chicagoland?
Everything is great. We are starting to see the leaves change. It's getting a little nippy, but everything's great.
It's expected this time of year, isn't it?
I'm afraid so, but I love this time of year, so I don't mind it at all. Football weather.
That's true. It's football season. Let's just start out with one question, and it's kind of like the tortoise and the hare. How can a small, no-risk plan for retirement actually outperform one of the larger, fully exposed to risk plans?
That is a great question. And, one of the things that we try to promote and preach here at Downey Financial Group, something that I learned early in my career, and that is that not losing money is just as important as making money. So in many cases, what we see with new prospective clients is that making money is all important, and not losing money has nothing to do with their plan or structure of their portfolio. So something that we really implement, and we believe especially for people as they get closer to retirement, need to really have a focus on is that not losing money is just as important as making money. So, and having really not losing money as part of your structure and plan. So, I use this analogy, Donna, quite often. If you lost 50% of your money, if your account portfolio went down 50%, like many people did in 2007 and 2008, how much of a rate of return do you need just to get back to even?
Well, you're going to need a lot more.
You're going to need a lot more. Many people say, well, you need 50%. That's incorrect. If you lose 50% of your money, you need a 100% rate of return just to get back to even.
Oh.
So in many cases, it's harder to get back to where you were than to have gotten there in the first place. So if you have a focus of not losing money, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have good or bad days with your portfolio. But what it does mean is that if you can really focus on minimizing risk to whatever level that you feel is appropriate, it means that you're going to be in a lot better position when the market is well to actually have a profit. One of the things that I find is that really having things in your portfolio that as pieces of the puzzle that are completely guaranteed, that you don't have to worry about, I think can be part of a true growth strategy. Let's say you had half of your portfolio in some kind of guaranteed investment product of some sort, and let's say hypothetically that it had the ability to average about a 5% rate of return, and you really believe that. You felt that that's really what it would do, and you knew that not only could you not lose anything that you started with, but everything you earned would be protected and guaranteed as well. Well, I think that if you knew that half your portfolio was in that type of situation, it would really help you make smarter, stronger decisions with the other half of the portfolio that was not guaranteed, that was more risk-based. In many cases, what we find is that people are letting fear really dictate their decision process. They're letting the fear of the market dictate just what they do. Or on the other side of the coin, they're letting greed dictate their decision process and really leaving themselves open to bad things happening when the market plunges. So what we find is that if people start to implement guaranteed type strategies into their portfolio, what it means is that it really brings that worry level down significantly, and also gives them the ability, I think, to make really good, strong decisions on the things that are going to be risk-based, that are going to be, exposed to market volatility, because they know, okay, well, I have a whole bunch of money that I can't lose a cent. I can make a much clearer, stronger decision with the things that are going to be exposed to the market.
Well, it sounds like you're saying slow and steady wins the race versus one step forward, two steps back.
I believe that wholeheartedly. It's not about how much you make today. It's how much have you made over the last 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. And having a structure and a plan that has a really high degree of reliability. And I think what a lot of our clients are really pleasantly surprised to discover is that there's things that come with guarantees that have really very competitive returns historically and can give them a real base of operations growth-wise. And again, I think what that does is once they feel they have that rock Gibraltar base to start from, they can make very strong, clear decisions on the things that they want to invest in that are not guaranteed, that do have some volatility, and not let fear dictate their entire decision process across the board.
And that's important. If you would like to speak with Ed Downey, president of Downey Financial Group, serving the Chicagoland area, and let me remind you, Ed has over 20 years of experience with this. You can give him a call. It's 800-940-6979. Now, something you said, Ed, just really rings true, and that is fear. If you're operating out of fear, what happens is you kind of move into panic, and then you're just at the mercy of bad judgment, and you make rash decisions and probably things you're going to regret. And I'm sure you've seen that with some of your clients.
Yeah, with some of the new people, unfortunately, more often than not, really what's happened over the last decade is that fear of losing additional money is causing them to make maybe not the best decisions. Mm-hmm. In many cases, we've seen people retreat to all CDs at the bank, and they haven't lost any further money. But when we finally meet them, they're also not earning anything. They're potentially running out of money. Donna, the first thing someone I feel needs to do on the journey to financial success is to really figure out where they are right now. I think the number one thing I hear when we meet somebody new is, Ed, are the investments I'm in any good? Am I heading in the right direction? Am I in good stuff? Well, for all callers who call in the next 15 minutes, we're going to offer a custom-designed, easy-to-understand one-page financial review, and I think that can really help indicate whether you might be in need of a full-blown financial plan. Now, there's no cost or obligation for this initial review for all callers who call in the next 15 minutes and have at least $200,000 saved up for retirement. So if you meet those qualifications, here's what you can expect. First, we will run a fee report to help you discover what your fees actually are, what you're actually paying in fees, what's going to your advisor, and making sure that what you are paying is going towards what you really want your money to do and that it is not excessive. Next, we'll perform a tax analysis to show you how you could possibly reduce your taxes. And I find if you pay less in taxes, you're going to have more cash flow. You're going to have more money to spend. We actually prepare taxes. We do over 1,000 tax returns a year here at Downey Financial Group. We really have some insight there. And finally, I think we could even help create a customized lifetime income plan using proven strategies and techniques that could really turbocharge your retirement income and take a lot of worry out of your life. In short, I think we could take a lot of the guesswork out of that financial planning part of your life for you. So for all callers who call in the next 15 minutes, a comprehensive financial review, that's what we're offering today with no obligation.
Well, this is absolutely perfect because it's a great offer. It's really a great chance for our listeners to make sure that they are on the right track for retirement. So you can talk with Ed at 800-940-6979 and get a second opinion. Maybe you need a first opinion. So keep that in mind, 800-940-6979, and Ed can explain where you are and how to get to where you want to be. But only if you call in the next 15 minutes to 800-940-6979. And what you're going to get is a comprehensive financial review that's going to show you how to get financially ready for retirement so you have absolutely nothing to lose. Now, Ed's going to stick around. We've got some more to talk about, and we'd like you all to stay with us because we've got more to cover right here on the Financial Safari in just a few minutes.
Do you feel the financial markets have managed to gain some type of stability? Don't mistake a short period of market stability for safety. Now is the time to review your plan and your progress to see if what you are doing is working to give you real financial success into the future.
In the Chicagoland area, contact the president of Downey Financial Group, Ed Downey, at 800-940-6979. Again, that's 800-940-6979.
And welcome back in, folks, to the Financial Safari. Of course, we are your weekly show looking inside this complex financial world. This is the time of the show where I like to go out into the nation and find somebody who's well-known or is a good author or knows the financial world. And today we're going to talk to Tom Hegna. And Tom has written a book called Paychecks and Playchecks, and the subtitle is Retirement Solutions for Life. And he's joining us from Arizona. Tom, welcome in.
Hey, thanks, Coach. It's great to be on the show.
Now, tell me what caused you to write the book. I know you have over 25 years' experience here in the financial arena, but what has caused you to feel so adamant about something to put it in book form?
Well, here's the problem. If a client sits down with 50 different financial advisors and says, how should I retire? You know what they're going to get? They're going to get 50 different opinions. And what I found is that almost all those opinions are suboptimal. Now, I say suboptimal because that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they're less than what they could and what they should be. So what I did is I dug into the research because retirement and retirement income has been studied by people like Dr. David Babel of Wharton and Dr. Moshe Milevsky of Toronto and Dr. Menachem Yaari of Israel. And so it's really been studied. And what I found is there is an optimal way for you and every one of your clients to retire. And that's really what the book is about. It's not about my opinions. It's about the math and the science of how to retire the right way.
We had Dr. David Babel on about 5 years ago on the show when he was in the middle of doing his research project there about how to retire with income for life and not worry about it.
Yeah. And so, if somebody said, Tom, summarize the book for me, here's what I would say. I would say there's lots of risks in retirement. There's market risk, and there's order of return risk, and there's withdrawal rate risk, and you might need long-term care, and you might die. But there's only number one risk in retirement. And the number one risk in retirement is longevity risk. And here's why. It's because longevity is not just a risk, it's a risk multiplier. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's say you retired age 65, and 3 years later you drop dead of a heart attack at 68. Does it matter if the market went down 40%? Does it matter if you were taking out 10 or 12% a year? Does it matter if you forgot to buy the long-term care policy? No, it doesn't matter. You didn't live long enough. But if you live to be 85, 90, or 95, it's all those other risks that will wipe you out. Find me a 95-year-old that weathered a 40% hit to his or her portfolio in their 70s. Find me a 95-year-old that's been withdrawing 10% a year every year in retirement. Find me a 95-year-old that doesn't need a form of long-term care. And so what math and science says is if you're going to retire properly, you have to take longevity risk off the table. There are only two optimal ways to do it: a lifetime income annuity or a deferred lifetime income annuity. That's it. And that's what math and science shows, and that's kind of what the book is. Because a lot of people think retirement's all about saving for this big number. Oh, I got to have a number. No, it's not. Your success in retirement will depend on two things. Number one, how much guaranteed lifetime income do you have? And number two, have you taken the key risks off the table? Longevity risk, long-term care, inflation. And so that's kind of what the book is all about. It's the solutions of how to solve all these problems.
We call it putting math over markets, Tom, and it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Now, the listener out there, there's a famous ad campaign by a travel-type firm, and it says, name your own price. And and people love that because they can actually name the price when they fly or travel or rent a car or whatever. In effect, they can name their own retirement income these days, can't they, if they take the right choices?
Absolutely. And now there are products out there that you can buy when you're in your 40s and 50s that will guarantee you a level of income when you're 60 or 65. You pick what day you want to retire and how much. And there's flexibility. You can move it up or delay it. There's some amount of flexibility. But it's so critical that people line up their guaranteed lifetime income because people just don't have pensions anymore. And pensions were the bedrock of this country's retirement system for 50 years, 100 years. And now you've got to create your own pension. And stocks can't do it, bonds can't do it, hedge funds can't do it, bankers can't do it. Only the life insurance industry can take longevity risk off the table.
Folks, we're talking to Tom Hegna. He's author of Paychecks and Playchecks, subtitle Retirement Solutions for Life. Tom, on the book cover here, there's an excellent quote from Richard Fisher, who's president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. And his quote is, "Americans who've done everything right, have worked hard, saved their money, and stayed out of debt are the ones being punished." Now explain that.
Well, here's why. Where do conservative investors put their money? They put it in CDs in the bank because it's FDIC insured. Well, part of Bernanke's plan to recapitalize all the banks is they have pushed these interest rates artificially low. So 1-year CDs are paying 0.37. 2-year CDs are paying 0.68. CDs normally would pay 4 or 5%. Where's that other 3.5% to 4% going? It's going into the banks to rebuild their balance sheets. So it's the savers that are being punished to bail out really the banks because they needed to recapitalize them. That's what that means. I tell people CDs were never made for income, and I know there are a lot of 80 and 85-year-old widows out there that buy CDs, and they're really hurting because there's no interest for income. But the thing is, lifetime income annuities were made for income, and I've literally helped people get 7, 8, 9, 10 times as much income guaranteed for the rest of their lives using lifetime income versus a CD that was never made for income.
Now, the banking world and many times the Wall Street world want people to think that these kind of solutions, these insured mathematical solutions, are too good to be true. What would you say to the listener out there who's heard that phrase, too good to be true, or thought it themselves?
Yeah, well, they're not too good to be true because they're based in math and science. Let me explain. The risk when an insurance company sells a life insurance policy is that somebody dies too soon and they got to pay a big claim and they only picked up $25. The risk when they sell a lifetime income annuity is that somebody lives too long and they got to keep making these payments. You see, because the insurance company is on both sides of the longevity risk, they're the only industry that can neutralize longevity risk to themselves and to the client. I'll explain another way. I was recently in Singapore. I spoke over there for the $1 Million Roundtable, and the day before I spoke, I got interviewed by Asia Insurance Review. And Asia Insurance Review said, "Tom, we're very concerned about U.S. life insurance companies that sell guaranteed lifetime income because we believe medical technology will develop to the point where people live to be 120, 130, 150 years of age. And if you're guaranteeing paychecks for life, you're going to go broke." And I just smiled and I said, "No, you only got it half right. You're right. We will be paying a lot of lifetime income, but guess what? We won't be paying any death claims." You see, because the insurance industry is on both sides of the longevity risk, they can neutralize longevity risk to themselves and to the client. Only the life insurance industry can do it. It's not too good to be true.
One of the topics you talk about in your book, and this is the final one I want to talk to you about, hopefully we can have you on again in the future. This is a fascinating subject, and you're a great interview here. But one is understanding the biggest risk of retirement and how to avoid them.
Yeah, well, I think I already discussed longevity risk is the number one risk. But let me just say something about the number two risk, and I'll say something about the number three. The number two risk is long-term care. You see, it's the one thing that most people don't plan for that can wipe out their entire life's work. Look, I was just speaking down in Miami, and an executive vice president for the company got up and told a story about his dad. And he said, "My dad had the best financial planner in the world. This guy knew alpha, beta, standard deviation. He always used a good mutual fund. He rebalanced regularly. He got my dad superior returns. My dad earned millions of dollars by working with this guy. But this guy never recommended long-term care insurance. And now $2.5 million has not gone to mom or the kids. It went to the nursing home. Now, let me ask you, in this whole scheme of things, how good a job did that financial advisor do? What difference did 50 basis points a year make in superior returns if they didn't take the key risks off the table? See, my chapter in the book on long-term care is called What's Your Plan? Because I always brag about my plan. My plan is I never have to go into a nursing home ever. I get to stay in my house till the day I die. The nurse has to come to me. And my favorite part, I get to pick the nurse. You know why? Because I have a plan. I have a long-term care policy with home health care. I get to stay in my house. And if we asked everybody who's listening, would you rather stay in your house or would you rather wind up in a stinky nursing home? I'll bet everybody would say they'd rather stay in their house. So now my question, what's your plan? Because the only way you can stay in your house is if you have a plan, and that plan needs to include long-term care insurance. And then quickly, the third risk is inflation. And I say, everybody's worried about inflation as a near-term threat. Inflation is not a near-term threat. Deflation is the near-term threat. But inflation is a significant long-term threat because we have printed a lot of money. And eventually, when that works its way into the system and we get some money velocity, see, there's no money velocity now, so there's really been no core inflation. But at some point, inflation will kick in. And so you've got to invest some of that money with an eye on inflation, because inflation over time can wipe out a person's portfolio and limit their income.
And Tom, you're also a retired lieutenant colonel from the Army, correct?
Yes, I am.
Thank you for your service.
I'm glad to serve and glad to be retired.
Folks, his name is Tom Hegna. He's the author of Paychecks and Playchecks, Retirement Solutions for Life. Tom, thanks for your time today.
Hey, thank you.
And folks, we'll be right back after this.
What should be the number one concern for most retirees and pre-retirees looking for future financial stability? Income planning. It means making sure that your money can support you and your family for the rest of your lives in the most efficient manner possible. Sitting down with a retirement planning specialist can make all the difference.
In the Chicagoland area, contact the president of Downey Financial Group, Ed Downey, at 800-940-6979. Again, that's 800-940-6979.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Financial Safari. It's your show that talks to you about financial issues in a way that you can actually understand. Now, each week we talk with our local trusted advisors across the country, and in the Chicagoland area, we talk to the president of Downey Financial Group, Ed Downey. If at any point you would like to talk with Ed or make an appointment because you've heard us talk about something that's of interest to you, here's the number. It's 800-940-6979. That's 800-940-6979. Now, I was looking at your website and I saw an article about fees and 401ks, but let's talk about fees in general and some of the ways that fees can actually be hidden inside a portfolio, Ed.
Well, most of the time what we find with clients is that when it comes to fees, especially of securities products like mutual funds or variable annuities or things of that nature, clients very rarely really understand how the companies are actually making money. And the fees are all disclosed in prospectuses. They're all there, but I don't know, Donna, if you've seen a prospectus recently, but they're usually about an inch thick. If you threw them on a fire, they'd burn for 24 hours.
And they're written so small, you have to be an amoeba to be able to read them.
And I don't think that's by accident. So, hidden, I guess, would be the way to kind of describe that. And unfortunately, what a lot of people don't understand is that those fees are going to be assessed on your money regardless of whether you're making or losing money. So, for instance, if you have a typical fee of, let's say, 1.5% hidden in your portfolio, if you're in a kind of slow market year and the market just kind of breaks even, let's say, doesn't make money, doesn't lose money, just stays at zero, you're going to be down 1.5%. They're going to suck that 1.5% out of your portfolio over the course of the year, so your net return will be a negative 1.5%. So fees are definitely something that need to be assessed in your portfolio and understood so that you know that any fees you are paying are really pointing you in the direction of where you want to go. Now, one of the other things we find is that there's many products that have fees on top of just the actual securities securities management, especially with products like variable annuities, where you have not only the fee of the fund manager that's managing the money inside your account, but also an insurance company that may be providing some additional benefit, like some kind of death benefit protection or something of that nature, that charge their own fee. It's not uncommon for us to start to pull a prospective client's account holdings apart and find fees that might be 3.5%, maybe even 4% of the value of the account, meaning in that same scenario, if the market was flat, like I mentioned a moment ago, you'd actually be down a -3 or -4% at the end of the year. So we're not anti-fee. Sometimes people need to have that as part of their life, but we just want to make sure that, number one, all of our clients and prospective clients understand what fees they are paying, and once they do understand that, make sure that those fees are actually doing something that they want them to do in their life and that they understand what they are.
If you have questions about fees, and I know, as you said, Ed, the prospectus that you get in the mail is virtually impossible to read, and we may put it on the counter with the best intentions, but you know darn well it never gets read. If you have questions and you'd like to talk to Ed Downey about it, here it is. Here's the number. It's 800-940-6979. So what you're saying is, in your portfolio, even if you're losing money, they're still taking out their fees. Even if it's not performing, they're taking out those fees. So actually, they're chipping away at your principal, correct?
That is correct. So they're going to get paid for their work regardless of results, and that's built right in. And that all happens before the share price is calculated on a daily basis. So it is working against you all of the time. Now, I'm not anti-fee, but I am very, very pro being aware of what you're paying and making sure you're getting what you're paying for and not paying too much. One of the things that we help people really learn about is, what are your alternatives? What are some of the alternatives that you might want to investigate that have lower fees, or even similar investments that might have different fee classes? So, just being aware of that, making sure that money's working for you appropriately. One of the things I find, Donna, is that many times people are just confused. Well, how do I find that out? Where can I really discover what I'm actually paying in fees, what my costs are? Mm-hmm. And I think in many cases that people, really find is that working with a professional somewhere, just even to help them discover what they currently own and how it works, can be extremely beneficial.
One of the things you said was that they're paid for their work regardless of the results, and that just doesn't seem fair.
In almost every other walk of life, the bad results, no, you don't get paid. But in this industry, with those types of products, that you get paid regardless. So you definitely want to make sure that the fees that you are paying, you understand what they are, and that you understand it, and frankly, you should feel good about it. I think anybody paying fees in their portfolio should be, that's going towards something actually being done in my life, especially if you're in an investment that's continually losing money. If you just feel that this thing does nothing but loses money, the fees are not helping, and there should be alternatives that you consider for sure. That's why we really go through a process with our clients. And, one of the things, as I mentioned in the last segment, I want to offer for all callers who call in the next 15 minutes, we're going to offer a custom-designed, easy-to-understand one-page financial review, and I think that can really help indicate whether you might be in need of a full-blown financial plan. Now, there's no cost or obligation for this initial review for all callers who call in the next 15 minutes and have at least $200,000 saved up for retirement. So if you meet those qualifications, here's what you can expect. First, we will run a fee report to help you discover what your fees actually are, what you're actually paying in fees, what's going to your advisor, and making sure that what you are paying is going towards what you really want your money to do and that it is not excessive. Next, we'll perform a tax analysis to show you how you could possibly reduce your taxes. And I find if you pay less in taxes, you're going to have more cash flow. You're going to have more money to spend. We actually prepare taxes. We do over 1,000 tax returns a year here at Downey Financial Group. We really have some insight there. And finally, I think we could even help create a customized lifetime income plan using proven strategies and techniques that could really turbocharge your retirement income and take a lot of worry out of your life. In short, I think we could take a lot of the guesswork out of that financial planning part of your life for you. So for all callers who call in the next 15 minutes, a comprehensive financial review, that's what we're offering today with no obligation.
It's very easy to take advantage of this. All you have to do is call Ed Downey, president of Downey Financial Group serving the Chicagoland area, 800-940-6979, and be one of those callers who calls in the next 15 minutes. Now, keep in mind, this is for retirees and pre-retirees. And what we're talking about here, folks, is common sense planning, and more importantly, straight talk to help get you through retirement without having to worry about it. Ed can explain where you are, but he can also help you get to where you want to be, and he can interpret those fees for you as well, or any questions you have. Now, the number to call is 800-940-6979. Remember, all of our callers who call in the next 15 minutes are going to get that comprehensive financial review that Ed spoke about. It's going to show you how to get financially ready for retirement, so you have absolutely nothing to lose. Ed, as always, enjoyed talking to you, and I look forward to talking to you next week.
I do too, Donna. Thanks so much for having me.
Everybody stay with us because we've got a lot more for you lined up on the Financial Safari.
The Financial Safari Radio Show features some of the best retirement planners from across the country and is your source for common sense information to help in your retirement planning. We pride ourselves on bringing 21st century solutions to our clients' retirement needs.
In the Chicagoland area, contact the president of Downey Financial Group, Ed Downey, at 800-940-6979. Again, that's 800-940-6979. I'm Walter Storholt, and welcome to Walter's World. How do they do it? I'm talking about the multi-millionaires out there, the real estate tycoons, the CEOs of major companies, those high-priced execs. Take Donald Trump, for example. Have you ever wondered how he does it?
It is a very, very complex thing to talk about.
I have the same 24 hours in a day, but for some reason I feel like Trump accomplishes a lot more than me on a daily basis. Donald Trump is a billionaire real estate investor. He stars in one of the most watched cable TV shows in the country, and he's a father, husband, philanthropist, and his brand, Trump, is one of the most recognized brands in the world today. Oh, and did I mention that he is also a golf course designer?
I built an empire.
Can you just imagine juggling all of those things? Just the thought of that amount of pressure would give most people a reason to throw up their hands and quit, or maybe some high blood pressure. The challenge a lot of us face is living a life in a reactionary state, meaning we wait for something to happen and then react, when the real secret is to be proactive. When you're proactive, you don't miss deadlines, you don't forget to respond to that email, you're on time for meetings, and you avoid a good number of other anxiety-causing issues.
You're fired.
So here are 3 simple steps to living a proactive life. Number 1, spend the last 10 to 15 minutes of every day dedicated to scheduling the following day. Try to do it down to the minute. Number 2, schedule time every morning to read something. And number 3, schedule family time every day. No excuses, it's the most important thing you can do. So remember, it's not about having time, it's about making time. That's it for this week, and we'll talk to you next time in Walter's World. And welcome back once again to the Financial Safari. Walter Storholt, Donna Mason, John Stillman, and Coach Pete D'Arruda all here with you. And it is now time for our favorite part of the show. This is the part of the show where we take questions from our listeners who have been listening all across the country, and they have emailed us these questions by submitting their question on financialsafari.com. It's the part of the show that we call the
We Are Questions!
All right, Donna, I think as usual you have first spin.
Ladies first.
Here we go.
I've been practicing at home. Did you like that
That
spin?
was nice. It was all in the wrist, Happy.
Thank you. This one comes from Tammy in Richmond, Virginia. Can you explain the best way to balance investment performance with risk? I've heard you talk about it, but I'm not sure I completely understand.
Yeah, well, that's a good question, Tammy, and it's a tough one at the same time. Investment performance with risk. We've always been told, Donna, that the more risk you take, the more what? The more return you get. That's what everyone said. You take a lot of risk, you'll get a lot of return. It works sometimes, but on the other side of the coin, the more risk you take, the more money you could lose, correct?
Exactly.
So, Tammy, I would recommend you, first of all, sit down and do a full money map type program where we map out all your money right now, where it is. And we also look forward to where you need to be in the future. And we divide and segment that money into proper places based on your age. Did it say how old she was?
No, she didn't.
Okay. So let's say if Tammy was in her 60s, then maybe 40% of her money could still be in the market. And if she was going to go into the market, what I would recommend is some dividend-paying stocks And also, what we've been recommending a lot lately, if you're going to take a lot of risk in the market, get a fund that pays you if the market goes down. Include that in your portfolio too. So if you're tying most of your risk money to the hopes that the market goes up and you have some dividend-paying stocks which are giving you a nice check every quarter, that's good. But if the market takes a tumble, wouldn't it be great to have a fund in your portfolio that would increase in value when the market went down?
Wow.
And there's a triple bear fund, we call it, so it triples your gain on the upside when the market goes down. So that's something to find out about. If you want to find out about that, we can tell you about it. We would not give that out as investment advice, though, until we sit down with somebody and see what their true portfolio looks like and what their risk tolerance is, because that is a high-risk type strategy, but that's the best way to play it on the risk side. And, of course, I'm a firm believer in anyone over 50 having some type of income-generating plan that's compounding and growing in a positive direction each and every year until you need it in retirement. So that has to be part of a portfolio, too. As long as an emergency plan should be there, too, and some fun money. Every year you need to do something fun. You worked hard in your working life. If you're in retirement, you need to have some money dedicated to having some fun. How does that sound?
That sounds good. Thank you, Tammy, for that question.
Well, thank you for your question, Tammy, and we invite anyone who has questions similar to that one about the financial world to write to us at financialsafari.com. Of course, you can call us as well, 800-940-6979. That's 800-940-6979. John, you want to give the wheel a spin?
Let's do it. Question number 7. This comes from James in Austin, Texas, who says, Coach Pete, I'd like to hear your favorite trick for passing assets to the next generation without paying any or many taxes.
Favorite trick around Halloween time, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the treat is if you do things right, it will be a big treat to your family or to your charities or churches if you set up assets correctly. And it's not a secret, and it's not a dirty little secret, but life insurance should be utilized to pass assets on in a tax-free manner. Now, we have something coming down the pike here in 2013, January 1st, called Tax-Mageddon. And the estate law changes, the tax changes for the estate law could be changing and make a lot of the money you thought you were leaving tax-free taxable. So it's very important that you meet with an estate planning attorney or at least a financial specialist who specializes in these kind of areas to make sure to point you in the right direction on how you can design a plan that keeps financial evaporation from happening upon death. And you know what evaporation is? If you set a pot of water out in the summertime in the yard, what happens to that water eventually?
Goes away.
It goes away, unless it's raining, and then it waits to the next sunny day and it goes away. But we don't need financial evaporation happening for families. And some of the biggest names out there, some of the famous people you hear about, some of the rich people out there, the way they pass money from generation to generation, using special trust and using life insurance to the full advantage that it is. So life insurance is a good thing when used the right way, and you really need to have a review of your policy if you have a policy that's older than 3 or 4 years old, because there are some new life insurance policies that not only give you a death benefit, but give you the option of taking that death benefit ahead of time when you're here if you have a long-term care need. So it prevents a lot of times the people from having to pay for a long-term care policy. Now they've got their estate plan in place. They also have their long-term care policy or their plan in place too. So, and a lot of people, believe it or not, are overpaying for their current life insurance policy because rates have gone down over the years. So get a review. Never cancel what you have now until you get a better one, or if you find a better one. But get a review, because the peace of mind knowing you're in the right place is worth every single penny of time it takes to do it.
Thank you for the question, James, and that is a great reminder, Coach, that there are a lot of changes happening in 2013, so you will want to be abreast of the situation, know what's going to be changing in a couple of months, and go ahead and give a call to the team from the Financial Safari to find out exactly what's going to be happening. 800-940-6979. That's 800-940-6979. It's about all the time we have on today's show. John, since you're fresh off your trip to Kenya, do you have any parting words, any words of sage advice, so to speak, from across the pond?
It's funny. I thought about this many times as I was over there. As Coach always says, it's a jungle out there. Don't go into the jungle without a guide. It's especially true in Kenya, but still true with your money, too.
Very, very true in the financial world, folks. Time goes by real fast. The show does as well. We'll join you next week on the Financial Safari.
Coach P Radio.
Information provided is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Neither Peter J. D'Arruda or his guests are liable for the usage of information discussed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs, income payments, and withdrawals.